Yo guys, how you doing? So today I'm going to take you through the Louder project, show you what's up, what sounds, you know, hopefully some processing, some new stuff that you didn't know. Before we get started, I want to say thank you. Louder is done so well. It's been in the top 10 in progressive for over a week now, so thank you guys so much for supporting that one. So let's get started on the project. One thing you guys should know before we head into this project, because when I was working with Antoine, he obviously works in a different DAW to me, so you'll see a lot of audio. Also at the same time, when I get close to finishing my projects, I bounce a lot of my synths to audio just because it's easier to wrap up a track and mix that way, and then also my computer just can't handle having so many synths with full stacks of plugins in. So what I've done here is I've got the audio in, but I've also re-brought back the synth channels with their processing to show you what I did with them as much as possible. So we're going to start with the drop today, and we're going to start with the kick drum. It's actually really simple, nothing too crazy to show you there. It's the same kick drum I've been using a lot. Here, you know, it's nice clicky, very Swedish sounding kick drum, nice little low end in there. And then underneath that there is a sub bass that Antoine put in, which I'll play you. You probably won't be able to hear this if you're on a laptop or a phone, but if you are listening on headphones or speakers, you could probably hear it. That's the sub layer there. So you can see what's going on. Those two cater for the low end quite nicely. Just shut it off. And then what we've got here is we've got another bass sound. It's quite clicky, but it's still got another low end. It's sort of in the pattern of the drop, it's in different spaces to the sub. But this one's a lot quicker, it gives it quite a bit of pace. And this bass patch here, oh sorry, this is the synth version of it just above. It's a Nexus patch. It's a really simple bass sound. I'll play it without the processing. It's nothing crazy. I really liked this bass sound because it's got a lot of like low mid drive. It really pushes things forward. So what I ended up doing was adding the harmonic maximizer, which is how I add the low end. You can see on the left here, I've put it in at 51 Hertz and I've added 3.2, I think that's dB. But what this plugin does is it, rather than just boosting EQ, it adds harmonics in at that frequency. So that's really important. I did that again on Antoine's sub patch as well in an earlier version of the project. So those three sounds together sort of cater for the low part. So you got like a really solid tight low end there. As you can see, if you're looking at the waveforms on my screen, oh shit, sorry, let's go back to this sound. We didn't go through the processing. So obviously the harmonic maximizer, and then I've got a fab filter here. I've just rolled off a little bit of around 20k down to, what's that, like, I can't really see, like 12k. Just dipped it off there, didn't really need too much up there. And then I've got the camel fat, which you guys know I use for sidechaining all the time. It's my favorite sidechaining plugin, because basically really simple. You set this to one quarter, and then you set this to how much you want it to sidechain. It's really simple. So for different sounds, you can put how much sidechain you want on there. And then I've also got this magic EQ, which again is another thing that adds low harmonics, and that's adding 21% at 84 Hertz, which is again a little bit more punchy. So again, those three sounds there is what makes up the low part of the track, even though it's predominantly low sounds. But this is that. Yeah, so that's the low end, and then basically I've just built more layers on top of that. The next very apparent more sound very apparent raw sound. Sound like fucking carnage. The next sound that's like one of the main sounds in the drop is this 303 layer here, which you can hear. I brought that as a synth back in so you can see what it is. It is a Spire patch, really simple 303 sound. If I take the processing is really important on this one. This is the original sound. And you can see in that, I don't know if you can hear in that original sound, that there's a lot more low end in there. So I took that out because obviously my low end's catered for with those other sounds. So I've boosted. I just wanted loads of presence in this sound because this is one of the main leads in the drop. And then I've got a CLA2 compressor. Nothing crazy. I don't know if you guys have watched my previous videos. You know I chuck that on everything. I usually just adjust the peak reduction in the gain till I feel like I'm happy. And then you've got the Quadrifuzz, which again my favourite distortion. I really like it because you know you get the bands that you can change how much distortion. It's really basic to be honest. And then next up we've got the Camel Fat. Again, I'll be doing the sidechain with that, and then I've set the value for how much I want it to sidechain there. Next up we've got a Renaissance EQ, which again I've just taken some more low mid, brought in quite a bit at 1K and a little bit of sparkle at the top. And then obviously really important, I've spoken to you guys about this before, but the Valhalla room on bass sounds, well, not the actual low end, as my friend was telling me off for the other day, Jazz1D, he was like, you cannot put reverb on low end. But as this isn't doing the sub, it's not a problem. But just a small tight room on this, it sounds really great. So, and really brings the sound to life. And then I've also got one more EQ just taking out more low end in there because we don't want it in there at all. Just to show you what I mean about the reverb is if I play it to you without now. You see what I mean? It's just a bit dry, if you chuck the reverb on, sounds really cool. So then if you have, you know, your sort of the stack of sounds that I've showed you so far, we're sounding like this. So we've got quite a lot of energy going on now, which is great. So that's some of the sounds so far. Then there's a few more layers that go on top of that 303 sound. Antoine layered on a couple of synths here that sound like this. Which sound really nice with the 303. Give a really nice electro vibe there. And then, what's this one here? And then what I've done is I've layered in one more sound here. And that's a Spire sound. So I'll play that. I don't know if the processing is doing that much on this one. I can't exactly remember. Oh yeah, it's just bringing a little bit of, you know, life to the sound. So I'll take you through that one quickly. We've got an EQ there, rolling off the bottom, boosting up quite a lot. That's quite drastic there. Quadrifuzz again. You know, I've really mucked about with the bands, how much distortion they've all got individually there. And then Camel Fat, just doing the sidechain. We've got a bit less on this sound to the other one. The other ones are on 68%, and this is on 53%. And then again, you know, my favourite reverb on a nice tight room again there. So that's sort of they're all the layers that are sort of doing similar sort of patterns. And then on top of that we have this sound which does the sort of melody switches. I've used this sound quite a lot. I used it in Heartbeats as well. Basically it's just a pretty, I've got the synth version here, so I'm going to show you that. To be honest, it's a really simple, like, just plucked synth. It's the process, well, it's how I've worked the sound to get it to where I want to be. So I'll play it to you without anything. It's actually a bass sound that I've used as a lead. Just really standard. So take the first EQ, taking all the body out at 200 and put loads in up the top. And then again, taking more low out there because there was still some hanging about, and then I got really big reverb at actually, and this is like, you know, 46% is really loads, but I didn't want it to overtake the 303 sound and the other layers. I wanted it to be in the background, so yeah, that was okay. And then a DJM filter that's not really doing anything, and then a camel fat here is just doing the sidechain, and because the reverb's so large, I've got it set on 100% of the sidechain there. So that's really cool. So that's sort of that's that plucky sound for you. So let me just turn this off. It's pissing me off. Not sure how we're doing for time. So yeah, that's the plucks, that's the sound. So if we heard all these sounds together now, we have got these, that one there. So we got this so far. Yeah, sounding really cool. I was really happy when we got that stacked together. And then on top of that, a sound that goes through the breaks as well as the drops. We have this synth stab here. But actually, it's two synths. Audios stacked on top of each other. The first one is this, which is just a Vengeance rave stab. It's really, really simple. And then in the drop, we've also added a brass hit as well, and like a really loud brass sample, and you can hear it together here. So it's like you can hear them both on top of each other, and they're also reversing it into each other. Yeah, it's pretty simple stuff. So that's the main drop. Let me see how we're doing for time. Are we already at fucking 12 minutes? Shit. Right, okay, so that's the main drop so far. I've explained all the sounds. A couple of other things that are going on. We have up in some of the band. Obviously, you can see everything's like our group. All of the effects are grouped into one here because I would add effects, then send them to Antoine. He would add more together, and then it would just get out of hand. So we ended up just bouncing them down into separate files. So we've got an effects thing here, and Antoine added this really cool sample in here, which sounds really cool. I think obviously the drums are really, really cool in this track. I'll take you through those now. There's obviously a tom here that is pitched into the key of the track, which is quite important to getting it to click with the music. But I'll slowly bring in all the drum sounds and tell you about them. So yeah, here you can obviously hear really, really punchy toms there. Sound cool. Play with the kick drum so it makes a bit more sense. Actually, do you know what? I'm going to skip over to the next 8 bars because the drums will come in there. So we've got the tom, we've got a clap as well. There's a snare. There's like a more clicky reverb tom on top of the big low tom. So you got one handling the weight and then one's handling the clicky thing. And then a little tambourine there doing some rhythm, some claps on there, and then a nice cymbal groove as well. And that's the drums really. You know, everything else is effects, to be honest. Right, so that's pretty much everything I've got time to show you. If you guys have got any other questions or want to know anything else that I missed, drop me a comment below, and I'll hit you back straight away. Cheers.